Hello everybody, welcome back to the stream. Good to see you. Alrighty, so today we continue on our quest of making a tutorial for Alchemortis here. And hopefully we're going to be able to do some cool stuff with it, visually speaking, but also just getting the code and the logic working properly. And of course now the cat has started meowing. Right on cue, cat. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Here he is. This is the little goblin. This is the attention stealer. This is the guy that derails trains of thought. Right, buddy? Look at that, not a care in the world. He's like, yep, that's me. I am the chief annoyer. Hi. You're not annoying. You're cute. Okay, alright. Anyway, hopefully that satiates his need for attention for a little bit. Anyway, before we get into it, I want to remind everyone that Alchemortis is available for wishlisting. That's the best way you can support me right now, so definitely consider wishlisting the game if you haven't. It's linked in the description below. You can also support the Patreon. So as a reminder, anyone that is actively subscribed to the Patreon is going to get a week of early access to the next playtest, which will be happening here in a couple weeks. And you also get some additional perks for each tier. This top tier here, if you subscribe for at least 1 month, not only do you get playtest access if a playtest happens during that month, but I'm also going to send you an Alchemortis Steam key and put your name in the Alchemortis credits. So again, you only need to subscribe to this for 1 month. Of course, I appreciate it if you subscribe for multiple months. And what I will probably do for the credits is I will order the names in the credits by who ended up donating the most over the lifetime of the project. So that'll be a little bit of incentive maybe to keep stay subscribed if you're able to, because the recurring income does help me a lot. But you can also purchase one of my courses. It's a great way to support me as well, but you also get something out of it, which is the knowledge of how to build a complete game in the Godot engine. And if you don't want to support or can't support financially for whatever reason, that is absolutely fine, obviously. I would just ask that you like the channel, subscribe to the video, and all that good stuff. Every little bit helps. Every little bit helps, and it's greatly appreciated. All right. Anyway, let's get right into it. Hello, RN Genesis. Welcome back. Good to see you. The Dollite, good afternoon to you as well. Light Tiramisu, hello, hello. What motivates you besides keeping a roof over your head? How do you stream so consistently? I'm very impressed every weekday. There you are. Yeah, I think, so I'm not motivated to keep a roof over my head. Like none of what I'm doing right now is motivated. I wouldn't say it's not motivated by money at all, but I have the ability to pay my bills. I've got savings, I've got investments. I'm fine from a, just can I afford the basic needs of living perspective. So that's not part of the motivation. And I would say that sometimes the motivation really isn't there. What's there is I like to kind of flip this question and say that it's mostly just about discipline. It's about getting into a habit, getting a routine of, for me, it's being productive. So getting into a habit of being productive, working on a game or working on a project, makes me miss being productive when I'm not doing it. So my day is actually, for me, a little bit worse if I don't at least get something done on the game or on whatever project I happen to be working on currently. If I go a day without working on anything, I don't feel that great. So, and that's just because I've built a habit. It's become part of my routine. It'd be like missing any other part of your routine, if like, I can't think of an example, but when you get thrown off of your routine, generally that doesn't feel too great. At least that's my experience. So it's baked into my routine, and that routine was built through just the discipline of doing it often and frequently. And I think that's about it. But yeah, in terms of like the larger motivations, like why am I even doing game development to begin with? Why am I even streaming to begin with? Number one, the streaming serves two functions. Firstly, I like hanging out with all of you. It's very fun. A lot of you guys are very helpful and very entertaining, so that helps as well. But I also like to just talk off the cuff and share what I know about Godot. I like teaching people. I like being able to share whatever specialized knowledge I have with anyone who wants to listen. So this is an outlet for that. And of course, I'm generating content for my YouTube channel. I'm generating, this is like part of the marketing effort for my games. It's not like leaning so heavily into marketing, but I mention the ads at the beginning of the stream every time. What else? I was going to say something else. Maybe I'm just rambling now. But anyway, so there's a lot of reasons why I like doing the stream. And so it's just like, it makes sense to do it because I get to share my knowledge, I get to get some work done, I get to hang out with some cool people, and I also get to create YouTube content, and I also get to plug my courses and my games and stuff. So it's like all of those things all wrapped up into like one live stream, which I like a lot. Hello, Ben. Welcome back. Good to see you. Hello, Jahar. Good morning. Welcome. Defected. Good to see you again. Great answer. That actually helps. Good habits. Yeah. I think just broadly speaking, if you try to like power yourself through any project on motivation alone, you're probably not going to succeed. The discipline is the important thing. And what I find is that the motivation comes and goes. Like I'll admit, like right now, this tutorial work that we're doing is very dry. It's very like uninteresting to me to make this tutorial. But I still have to work on it every day. And, this is why I kind of took a little bit of a detour yesterday and I added like the little arm to this guy, is because that was just something fun that could like add something interesting to this current piece of work for me. But yeah, if I was just like, oh, I'm not motivated to work on this tutorial, so I'm not going to do it, it would never get done, right? Also, recent development for me that I've gained back from younger times. But need to produce something every day. If I don't, it feels like time wasted. Yeah, exactly, yeah. I relate to this as well. It came with age, as I found making things almost always more rewarding than playing games or watching TV shows. Yeah, that's exactly the experience I have. If I don't do anything productive, and then I sit down to play a video game, or I sit down to watch something, that thing is actually less enjoyable to me. Like, video games are much more enjoyable to me, at the end of the day or toward the end of the day after I've already done a bunch of work. And I think that's just mostly due to habit, But I think there is something like, being productive is rewarding on a deeper level than the kinds of rewards that you get from entertainment like video games and TV. And those are a type of like obviously those things can be very engaging and there's a time and place for those things, right? But creating a project, spending a long time dedicating yourself to a project and watching it grow and watching it develop is a lot more rewarding, but it's rewarding in a slow burn kind of way. It's rewarding in a way that you don't really start to see the rewards of that until you build that habit. I mean, you know, and trust me, I play plenty of Arc Raiders, so. Anyway, it's like a reward. Dopamine hole, yeah. It's very true. The production is a huge reward, also even bigger than the video game playing. Yeah. Well, this is why, you know, it's very, very common. I think it's common in the game dev space, but I would bet it's common in like other creative or entrepreneurial spaces as well. There's a lot of people report feeling down or like a depressed mood when they're done with a big project they've been working on for a long time. And I think that's because they have nothing to do. Like, like the reward comes from the actual process itself and not necessarily from the end result. And so when you get to the end result and you don't have the process anymore, it actually feels bad, which is kind of counterintuitive, but I'm sure some of you know what I'm talking about. Hello, Asymmetrics. Good morning to you. Welcome back. Always good to see you. Always good to see you. See, this kind of work is something that gets me way closer to a public demo than a new fun feature, so I usually don't struggle with the minute things. All right, so let's take a look at the current status of... Let's take a current look at the status of, what? This thing. So yeah, I love the arm. It's not pointing to the right spot in a lot of cases, but we'll fix that. Probably won't fix that now. Probably should work on getting the actual tutorial done. Place a card onto your board to prepare for combat. Cards will execute their abilities when their turn comes up. So I may change this animation. Yeah, we'll not worry about that just yet. Oh, I was testing a bunch of... Wait, how am I in the tutorial right now? Oh, I should probably fix this. I might add a debug flag for this because I'm tired of... Well, let's do one thing at a time. With me at least drawing a piece of art, the best part is the process to find a result because an excellent hit of dopamine, but that doesn't last. And then on to the next piece to get it back, right? Yeah. All right, so I think we're getting close to the point where I'm going to want to... I might change this card. The problem with having this jellyfish here is that if you alchemize this with the Skeleton Warrior, you can get a card out that has negative abilities. Also, that is wrong. 0 to 2 negative abilities. That's still wrong text, but that's all right. So yeah, you could get a negative ability in here, which I don't necessarily want to introduce into the tutorial. Now continue your offensive against the Inquisition with your newly acquired, newly alchemized card. So we'll do that. Okay, we'll just put this here. I think we're basically done with the broad strokes of the tutorial. So cells in your combat board can be unlocked using alchemical residue. Alchemical residue is a byproduct of alchemy. Use alchemy to gain residue and unlock a cell. So we'll do this. We'll alchemize those things together. We'll grab this. That's going to turn into residue. And then we'll unlock a cell. Some locations grant you upgrades to your power. Visit either the enchantment or the upgrade locations to enhance your cards. We'll go to the enchantment just to test it out. That needs to disappear. So maybe we'll do that. Turn cooldown reduced by 1. As you travel, your notoriety level increases. Once your notoriety reaches 100, the Inquisition will send their strongest forces in the region to confront you. Go here. So now I gotta get the boss fight structured here. So that's the next thing we need to do. Okay, so we'll get that in place. Let's go ahead and do a boss fight. Tutorial. Seeded run. Generate boss encounters. Seeded run. Generate boss encounters. Oh, is this just, I think this is going to be easy. Generate boss encounters. Okay, I actually think notoriety regions to boss configurations. So in here, let's do this. Var boss config is equal to new combat configuration. There goes the cat again. Did you hear the cat? Hey cat, can I politely ask you to shut up? There he is again. Azir, what is your problem? What is your deal? Long kitty. Oh, let's do a long kitty. Long kitty. Woo! Anyway, boss config, board configuration model, board dimensions, we'll do a 3x3. At 0, 0, we're going to place the card ID boss mayor. Should I actually introduce the first region boss in the tutorial, or should I actually don't know if this is going to be beatable. But let's just go ahead. So we got 0, 0. And then let's do, I don't know, we'll do something simple. Let's do 2, 0, card ID, potato. And then a potato is a 1x2. So I've got one more cell. Maybe we could do a chicken or something. Card ID chicken. And then we'll do, this one is 2, 2. Okay. We'll give the boss a little bit more health. Currency, 10. Guaranteed reward cards. I actually haven't tested the reward cards after the boss fight. I should probably do that. Guaranteed reward card IDs. I probably don't want to necessarily give the player too much here. I'll just do another jellyfish. I'll change the jellyfish out of this one here. Stone skin enchant. Card ID, what do we want to give the player? I don't know. Let's do Skull Tower. Azir, stop. Stop it. I need to think. You're being annoying. Let's put you to bed. Put you to bed. There we go. All right, let's see if that works. I love to have a vision and work toward it. The process is almost always more enjoyable than having done something. Like the journey is almost always better than the destination. Yeah, I think that's true. I feel the same in MMOs. The leveling is so much better than the grind at the end game. Maybe I'm just simple and need the XP bar visible. No, I'm the same way. Like if a single player game doesn't have good progression, or I exhaust all the progression, basically that's the moment I lose interest. Like if I don't have something to work for besides just like min-maxing the stats on my gear, then I have a hard time staying engaged with the game for sure. Hello Progyan, welcome. Good to see you again. In game dev for a crappy dev like me, don't say that. Don't say that. Having an idea of mechanic and working through 2 days of problem solving to make it happen is extremely rewarding if I can keep my motivation and drive. Yeah. While in school, studying wasn't boring in itself. It's just other things were even more enjoyable. Right. Nice bat. Oh, yeah, the cat. I'm trying to tell you, Kitty is giving the answers to the universe. I have a funny story about that, but I shouldn't, probably shouldn't share it. Hello, buddy. What? Did you guys hear? Are you hearing him? It's like, come on, dude. Come on. How much attention do you need? This is the neediest cat of all time. Everyone, I have the neediest cat of all time. It's just unbelievable how much attention he needs. All right, anyway. Boss nodes. No. Notoriety region to boss configuration 0 is equal to boss config. Okay. Now the question is the player going to be able to beat the boss? Do you plan to change the capsule art later? Probably, yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Probably. I'm in your multiplayer course. Can a visual state machine be used safely in multiplayer instead of a callable-based one? Yeah, I mean, the state machine implementation, the most important part is that you're able to synchronize it across the network properly. If you can do that, then it doesn't matter what approach you take to the state machine. If you don't like the callable state machine, then you certainly don't have to do it. What is nice about the callable state machine in that course is that we could basically just send a string name that represents the function of the state that needs to be invoked. And so that kind of simplifies things a little bit, I think. But, you know, I think if you're building a multiplayer game, which you are, then something like a node-based state machine might even be a little bit better, because then you could just RPC remote procedure call directly to the nodes in the, or each state node. So that could work for sure. But yeah, the most important thing is being able to synchronize the state. What state machine approach you use doesn't matter, as long as you can do that. I would definitely beat the boss if it was me. The reason I'm asking is because the capsule art kind of looks lower fidelity than the actual game by this point. Yeah, I agree. We'll have to figure that out for sure. Okay, all right, so we've generated a boss configuration. Let me just run through this, and I'm gonna write down some notes about what actually needs to change here. So let's see, I'm doing a tutorial. I never even wrote down a card for this. Interactive tutorial. Let's do a to-do. Okay. And we'll start taking notes about what needs to change here. So there's a lot, but I'm just going to be taking notes for now based on the sequencing issues. Okay, defeated some of the Inquisition's forces. Alchemy is used to combine cards to create new ability combinations. Open the alchemy drawer to begin crafting. To alchemize cards, add 2 or more cards to the pot. Choose 1 card to add to your inventory. Hover over a card to see its new abilities. Well, let's just not worry about that for now. Now continue your offensive against the Inquisition with the newly alchemized card. Okay. We'll grab the Wyvern. Cells in your combat board can be unlocked using alchemical residue. Use alchemy to gain residue and unlock a cell. Apply 8 fire. So I want that one. Then we unlock a cell. Some locations grant you upgrades. So after some locations grant upgrade, hide tutorial guide. Okay, so we'll go in here. So that tutorial guide needs to be hidden now. During that state, we'll upgrade the skeleton mage. As you travel, your notoriety level increases. Once your notoriety reaches 100, the Inquisition will send their strongest forces in the region to confront you. So, okay, so after visiting node, hide notoriety tip. Okay, we'll go to the checkpoint now. Let's see if this generates a proper boss fight. There we go. So then we need to do a boss explainer. I might make a card that's like specifically a tutorial boss. Oh, this guy has to be legendary too. Do I not make the bosses legendary anymore? Get boss cards for notoriety region. Oh my gosh. Cat, can you stop? Azir. Am I no longer setting the bosses as legendary? Make legendary. Place guaranteed cards. Oh, why is it doing that here? I probably don't want that to be the case. I guess I don't really have a choice for now. All right, so we'll keep that there. So that means that in my tutorial seeded run here... Oh, shoot. Oh, create card. Right, okay, so let's do this. Our boss card is equal to that. Then we'll say boss card dot make legendary. And then we'll put the boss card here. Okay, so that should fix that. That needs to be hidden. So then we need to show a boss explainer. And then after the boss is beaten, which should be doable. Okay. Okay, and then after the boss, after map is re-entered, after boss fight, show tutorial complete, prompt the player to return to the main menu. Okay. Between this game and your Obsidian list, how much of your day-to-day do you spend staring at black and purple? A lot. I guess a lot. I probably see more black and purple than anyone else on Earth. Okay, cat. Okay. What has gotten into you? What has gotten into you today? Actually, Gunforge didn't have that much purple. That's true. Is there a way to decrease notoriety? Not right now, but I may add that in the future. Speaking of Gunforge, I can't get past the freaking Rat King. What's y'all's builds? Interesting. Granted, I don't play as much as per earlier convo about, so a little time for video games, but still. So one thing that's weird about Gunforged is that I've heard that the bosses are not difficult enough, that they're too easy. And I've also heard that the bosses are very difficult and it's hard to beat them. And I can't tell if that's good boss design or if I just like didn't satisfy anyone. Gunforged has a lot of problems. If I were to go back and remake the game, I'd definitely change a bunch of stuff. But what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's a learning experience all around. I personally think the Rat King is too easy, but I also played a lot of Gunforged, so that's the hard thing about developing a game and trying to judge it for yourself is like you have such intimate knowledge of how to play the game that it's hard to adopt the position of I'm a brand new player to this game. How am I going to receive this or how am I going to interact with the game? It's very, very difficult, and that's why I've been more cognizant of doing play tests with some frequency for Alchemortis. Because it does help to get fresh eyes on it and like hear all of the problems that people have with the game. So yeah. Didn't satisfy anyone. I see you've talked to every girl I've ever been with. Just got a lot of health or my gun sucks. Yeah, so the bosses in Gunforge, they kind of are like DPS checks. So what I would say is that you probably just don't have a build with enough DPS. The bosses are supposed to be like a wake-up call, like, oh, I'm not killing this thing very fast, so that means my build is deficient. That was the goal of the bosses, in addition to just providing an interesting fight. But, yeah. Don't know how well I accomplished that. Probably not very well, but actually, Gunforged is actually doing all right. I've got 66 positive reviews, very positive. 86% are positive, so definitely appreciate that. So yeah, can't complain for a first like real release on Steam. You know, there's nothing to complain about. Noted, my gun sucks. Need to go do that. Oops, didn't mean to say that. Oh, wrong chat, probably. Anyway, you're gonna get banned for cursing. I'm just kidding. Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the trying to keep it like a general, you know, I don't know what kind of vibe I'm going for. Just the general, I don't know. Profanity is fine, just like try not to overuse it, you know what I mean? Maybe this is like a PG-13 space. Any plans on a Gunforge update after Alchemor's release? You know, I was thinking about it. I was like, I really kind of like the idea behind Gunforge, and I think there's a bunch of ways I can do it better. I also think it would be interesting to try to translate Gunforged into like a 3D, like maybe a first-person shooter instead of a top-down. And I've always been interested in using that tool Crocodile to create like 3D environments with like hand pixelated textures. So if I were to do like a Gunforged 2, I probably would do a first-person Gunforged with hand-drawn, hand-pixeled environments with a lot of the same ideas in it. I think that could be really neat. We want extraction shooter. We love Tarkov and Zero Sievert. Yeah, so like Arc Raiders being a more casual extraction shooter also got me thinking of like, what would a casual single-player only extraction shooter look like? Like, what would an arcadey extraction shooter look like? Something that's not as hardcore, something that's not as serious, and also single player, right? I think there's a lot of room to work to incorporate the extraction shooter genre into, or like to meld that genre into other genres. I think there's definitely a lot of room. I want a new Desert Strike game, old style, 3D and Godot. Yes, I would stick with Godot for sure. The old school extraction game. I love extraction shooters. Actually, I don't know if you would really call this an extraction shooter, probably not, but my first introduction to like those hardcore survival games where you have to run around and loot was DayZ, the standalone DayZ. And I put a lot of hours into that. And the reason is because of the fights that you get in. Like, you would spend hours gearing up, finding weapons, finding ammo, staying alive, running from zombies. And then the moment that shots start flying, you're out in the woods somewhere, you're at an airbase, whatever, it's like, okay, like, you know, the adrenaline gets pumping. It's like one well-placed bullet and I will lose everything. And that was a very, very fun experience, like very intense. And then, of course, the extraction shooters came along shortly after that, which made use of a lot of those ideas of going out into a world and looting, but they tightened that loop quite a bit while also retaining that fear of losing or that adrenaline that comes with getting in a fight. And so obviously Tarkov came along, and then there were a bunch of like spin-offs or variations on that idea, and now we have Arc Raiders, which is a far more casual version. But the thing about Arc Raiders is that it still retains that adrenaline when you get into a tough combat situation, even though it's a lot easier to gear up and it's a lot easier to get out with materials. So yeah, I think there's still a lot of room to do some exploration in that genre for sure. Bro, that game is brutal, yeah. FPS view of a banana gun would be very funny, right? Yeah. In DayZ, you don't really extract. Right, I'm talking more of like the loop of going into the world and finding just loot out in the world. Yeah, it wasn't an extraction shooter though, for sure. Immersive, yeah. I played DayZ in the Arma days. It was so rough. It was, I mean, even the standalone version was a rough game. Like, the controls kind of sucked, and it was a little bit clunky, and it didn't look that good, but it was fun. Good morning, Emerson. I spent an entire week in game just gathering medical stuff to go around and be a field medic. Immediately died when I met my first casualty. Hello, bite marks. Sulfur and Dukov are good. I think single-player extraction can have a lot of value. Yeah, I've seen Sulfur. I've actually got that on my wish list. And I heard about Dukov, and I saw how well received it was, but the entire duck theme just, like, doesn't do it for me, so I never tried it. Godot needs more real 3D games. I agree. I've also been going through your multiplayer course, and it's fire. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I was basically nocturnal the whole summer. I finished secondary school as I played Arma 2 DayZ with Americans. Nice. So they work more on their 3D deficiencies. Yeah, unfortunately, I think the kind of game that I would make in 3D would be something that already fits pretty well into what Godot offers in 3D. Like, I wouldn't be trying to do something with like super high fidelity or anything. Probably would just use very flat lighting, maybe some shadows, but maybe not. I wouldn't be doing anything too technically impressive with 3D. Okay, anyway, I've procrastinated long enough. We got to work on this. So, after some locations grant upgrade. So, let's go here. Where is that tutorial guide? On map entered. So I need to do on... Yeah, let's do on travel entered. So we have this on travel entered. If state machine dot get current state is equal to state nodes. I think it might be useful to do like a reset state. Although that doesn't really help, actually. We'll just do state post nodes. State machine dot change state. State post nodes. Guide container.visible equals false. Clear skull position. Private void leave state post nodes. Okay. So I think that one is addressed. After visiting a node, hide in notoriety tip. So let's do that. State machine dot add state, state post notoriety. I'm gonna get rid of that leave state post nodes. Actually, I don't need this. Private void state post notoriety. Guide container dot visible equals false. Clear skull position. Okay, so on travel entered. Else if state machine get current state is equal to state notoriety. State machine change state, state post notoriety. Okay. So that should be done. We need a boss explainer. So on combat entered. State machine is equal to dot get current state is equal to state post notoriety. Then what we will do is we will change into the state boss. State machine.change state, state boss. Let's go up here. State machine.add state, state boss. Leave state boss. Scroll all the way back down. Private void state boss. Private void leave state boss. Okay. So we will do this. Rich text label.text. Defeat them to continue your assault. That's fine. Set skull position. We'll just do, I don't know. I'm going to have to update all this position logic, I think, but we'll just do 320, 96, false. Okay. Change into the state boss state. I think that's good, but let's just go ahead and run through this and make sure all those changes are good. Nanto game dev working on it. What are you working on? Oh, I see you answered this down here. Atmospheric psychological horror roguelike top-down pixelated graphics. Hopefully I can show something this year. Yeah, and if you have anything to show Nanto, definitely join the Firebelly Discord server. That's linked in the description below. There's a game dev channel where you and everyone else is free to share your own projects or share game dev related topics. So definitely love to see that. Necromancy theme also fits very nicely in extraction shooter. Yeah, that would be interesting. That would be interesting. I think the gap between 3D and 2D isn't as large as people imagine. Yes, you have a somewhat different set of problems, but the problem at the end of the day is to find a fun game. I think we're mostly talking about the limitations that Godot has with respect to 3D. It's certainly not as good in terms of graphical fidelity as something like Unreal or Unity, and it doesn't have the best 3D tooling in a lot of cases. Like, for example, just recently the inverse kinematic nodes were completely rewritten because they weren't really cutting it before. So it's that kind of thing. It's like, if you're going to try to be a serious 3D engine, like those things need to work and work well. And there's a lot of situations where that is not the case. Can we get a chicken boss for the tutorial? Thank you. Yeah, we could. Hello, Marcos. Welcome back. Good to see you. Going into the map to gain reagents and other ingredients and having the ability to alchemize on map somehow, but also at the hub. Oops. See, I just sequence broke this because I wasn't paying attention. So we're going to have to figure all that out for sure, but that's all right. Let's just go through. I'll make sure to follow the instructions. Defeated some of the forces. Open the alchemy. To alchemize cards, add 2 or more cards to the pot. Choose 1 card to add to your inventory. Oh, look at that. Now continue your assault. I don't have any healing cards, but that's all right. Ceremonial dagger, wyvern hatchling, boom. Cells in your combat board can be unlocked using alchemical residue. Alchemical residue is a byproduct of alchemy. Use alchemy to gain residue and unlock a cell. So we'll do that. Some locations grant you upgrades to your power. Visit either the enchant, so we'll go this way. Okay, so that disappeared, which is good. All poison applied is increased by 1. So we'll do wyvern hatchling. Turn cooldown is reduced by 1. Okay, now if I go here, did not work. Because, why didn't it work? I want to try something here. I wonder what happens if I don't try to win. Okay, so it looks like it's impossible to lose the boss fight, which is fine. So even if I only have one card, that basically does no damage. Although I was healing, so maybe it is possible, but I might have to handle the death case in this. But anyway, let's try it one more time. In reference to the Necro Extraction, yeah, I got you. Necro Extraction would be really interesting. You go in with a loadout, which would be like your minion, your retinue of minions. And there are different like high loot areas, which are different like villages and graveyards and like catacombs and whatnot. You get more minion reagents, more minion components. I've always liked the idea of like having a necromancer game where you like kit out your minions. So like imagine you've got like a skeleton in your party, right? And the skeleton has slots for all of its bones. So it's got like a skull slot, and it's got a rib cage slot, and it's got left arm, right arm, you know, so on and so forth. But then, so that's like the skeleton paper doll. That's how you actually construct the skeleton. But on top of that, you've got another paper doll for the equipment on the skeleton. So you could put a helmet, a cuirass, you know, a weapon, a shield on the skeleton. And so all those stats combine together to create your skeleton, right? I think that would be kind of interesting. It's a lot to manage for one unit, but the chicken would have to come back at the end of the game as the final boss. Yeah. Hello, Jack. Welcome back. Hello, Bubblegum Lord. Good to see you. Would be cool to either have have minions tanking for you, or you're tankier and they have DPS. So different play styles. Yeah. Yeah. The biggest problem with like Necromancer games is that if you're doing like a real-time Necromancer game where you have a bunch of minions and they're running around the screen and stuff, the hardest part about that is just getting the AI to work in a reliable way. That is always the major annoyance. I mean, it's a problem in basically every game that I've played. Some games do it very well, but like they always need this stopgap solution of like having a way to target, like send your minions to the proper target. And that turns into too much micromanaging, I think. Yeah, it's like the problem with a lot of Necromancers is like the minions are just basically a different way to do DPS. They don't really change the game that much. I mean, minions can go and engage enemies and stop them from advancing, and so you could like form like a little pocket of safety or whatever, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard to do. Hello, MEN official. Welcome. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. I feel like that would be a problem with Necromancy was real too, because skeletons don't have brains, right? Yeah. Yeah. I probably need to get rid of the embalming fluid as well. Okay. Remove embalming fluid and jellyfish. Replace with other cards. Oh boy. There's a lot to do. Some locations, blah, blah, blah. Skip that. Oh, there's still no notoriety thing. What in the heck? Why is the notoriety not showing up? Why is that not working? Move this here. Why is that not working? What's with the vodka? I thought you drank Irish whiskey in the morning. Irish coffee. Is there vodka? Does this look like a vodka thing? It's coffee. And how do you know I don't have my skeleton minion doing the typing for me right now? That would explain a lot, actually. What do you think about adding facial expressions to enemies when they take damage, depending on the intensity of the hit, or even making them tremble in fear and have a chance to flee? Chance to flee is interesting. As far as facial expressions, I would need to draw that for every card, but also facial expressions are not applicable to every card. That's the other thing. A lot of cards are like vegetables. So it would only work for some cards, and it would be, yeah, very not noticeable, I think. So I'm not going to do that. But the idea of having a flee potential, I screwed this up again. Having something flee is an interesting idea. There's no note that I see, no notoriety. Yeah, I don't know what happened to that. I don't know why it went away. Would that feel weird in a roguelite shooter? I want to try giving more personalities. Oh, you weren't talking about my game. You're talking about your game. Yeah, I think it entirely depends on the style. I mean, I think, like, if you have a very hectic roguelite shooter, you're probably not going to notice the individual enemies changing their expressions. But if you've got like a more deliberate kind of game where maybe the gameplay is a little bit slower and the combat is more deliberate, then yeah, adding some kind of like expression to the enemies could definitely add a lot, but it depends on what you're going for in your game. Why is this not working? Is it even entering the notoriety state at all? State notoriety on travel entered. Oh. Why is this not working? Oh, this needs to be state post nodes. Right. Right. Do I work full-time on this game? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. What do you mean the horse dung can't have a facial expression? I can easily give horse dung a face. Anyone got a stick? Yeah, I think you're right. Asymmetrics. Yeah, you got it. Now we gotta go through all this again. I wish there was an easier way to test this. Maybe there is, but I'd have to set up all the states properly and whatnot, which is kind of lame. Go through this. Grab the wyvern. Cells in your combat board can be used alchemical residue. Take the wyvern, unlock that. Do this, go here. Upgrade the Wyvern. Go here. There we go. Let's see if the boss one appears now. It didn't. So state post notoriety. So when we're changing it to the boss state here, on combat entered. State boss. Is this not firing combat entered? Let's check that. Oh, it's a different signal. Boss entered. Okay. All right. We'll have to handle that then. So tutorial guide. Game events.instance.connect. Game events.signalname.boss entered. Callable.from. On boss entered. Get rid of this here. Okay. Gold star for asymmetrics. There's no star emoji, so this will have to do. I'll link my Cash App, no worries. Nice progress on the tutorial. It looks really good. I like to change to the skull text pointer. Thank you. Yeah. Still a lot of work to do, but we're going to get there. Oh, there is a gold star. Don't know how to do things. So let me think. So I suppose I should just run through that again. I can just start the player off in the boss state, I guess. And just see if that text shows up. Okay. I think this is wrong text. The Inquisition have sent. Okay. All right, so I think that's working. We could change this back to state start. Okay. So I think we've got everything basically set up in terms of the steps here. So two big things to still do is the visuals, make that look a lot nicer, and also preventing all of these, you know, the player breaking the tutorial. So we'll go ahead and do that. We'll go ahead and do that, but things are hard, yeah. Do you mind explaining how you fund this game? I have a full-time job and work on my game dev project in my free time, which is quite challenging. Yes, that's what I was doing. I did work full-time as a software engineer, but while I was working, I also saved up a bunch of money, and I ended up losing my job, not through any fault of my own. I didn't get fired. The startup I was working for ran out of money, and so I just decided, well, I've got this money in my savings account, and I've got a bunch of money saved up elsewhere. So I might as well just try to do this. So I've been using that money mostly, but I also have recurring monthly income coming from my Udemy course sales. So I have a number of Udemy courses that people are still purchasing, that's still generating revenue. So that goes a long way to paying my bills every month as well. I am still running a deficit, so the amount of money I have saved is slowly dwindling over time. But that's how I've been able to get, almost a year and a half of full-time funding for this, is just what I had saved and what I have recurring as monthly revenue from Udemy, mostly. Of course, I released Gunforged as well, so that was a nice boost in terms of the money in my savings account. So yeah, I mean, all in all, that's how I'm funding it. I'm still losing money, definitely not profitable. And of course, there's a huge opportunity cost here too, which is that, you imagine a software engineer salary in the United States for a year and a half. I'm not receiving that, right? So that opportunity cost kind of has to be factored in as well, which is a lot of money. So anyway, all in all, yeah, it's not profitable, not making nearly as much money as I need to be, but I also am in a situation where, I'm not, if the game development stuff doesn't work out, if I can't make a living over an indefinite period of time doing this, then I will go back to working. Historically, I would do contract work, then live frugally off that for however many months until my funds ran low, then I'd find contract work again. Yeah, and that's what I did a 6-week contract last year, in the middle of last year, and that was also a nice boost to my funds. That was only like 10 hours of work a week, a little bit of extra money, so that helped. I'm kind of in talks right now to do more contract work with some people for like a part-time software engineering stuff to help out, but yeah, I mean, it is kind of nice to not have to worry about, contract work or full-time job, but the not nice thing about it is I can't do it forever, so at least not at the current state. How much time is invested to make a Udemy course versus profit? So the Udemy course, last course I made, I ended up with like 28 hours of raw footage. And then I had to watch back every single minute of that footage to edit it down into reasonable chunks and cut out any mistakes. And I had to re-record a lot of them. But let's just say, so 28 hours to record the course lessons. That does not include the planning or the, pre-planning or whatever. And then 28 hours to watch back every minute of it. Add in some time for editing. And then, of course, actually creating the course page and uploading all the course resources and titling them and getting the thumbnail created and the course preview trailer created. I would say probably it's in the range of like, I don't know, you could maybe say, if I were to put just a guess on it, maybe like 120 hours or something to create a course. Maybe I'm underestimating. Maybe it's closer to 150, something like that. Now just 10 things at once and I don't sleep and I rely on my wonderful wife. There you go. I'm about to be in the same position. I'm getting married very soon and my wife is very successful. So maybe I can just be a lazy bum and not do anything the rest of my life. Sounds like you need more Udemy courses too, yeah? So make sure Alchemortis doesn't smash it so you don't have to think about on your next one. Yeah, think about money, yeah. That's the goal. I have an ambitious goal for Alchemortis to sell 50,000 copies, but that's like the super success goal. If I only meet like 1/5 of that goal, that's still 10,000 copies, which would still be a huge success as well. But 50,000 is the number I want to hit, and we'll see if that works. 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, and I don't do like 8-hour days when I'm recording courses because my voice gets tired. I usually don't record more than like 3 or 4 lessons at once because by that time I start to get tired, my voice starts to get tired and the quality of the course drops. So I usually only stick to like recording 3 or 4 lessons per day when I'm working on the course. And then I immediately go and edit those lessons and I render them so that when I'm done with the final lessons, everything's edited and rendered and I can just go and start the upload process. But I definitely don't do 8 hours of work on the course when I'm making one because I just can't talk for 8 hours straight. Video editing is also a massive time sink, yeah. And sometimes, I will get, the reason why I watch back every minute of what I record is number one, to make sure it's good quality, make sure my mic was recording properly, make sure that there were no video artifacts that happened up or there was no corruption or whatever. But also I want to make sure that the continuity is there, right? I want to make sure that, I'm watching back the course as a student would watch it back. And sometimes I'll encounter a situation where like, oh wait, I totally should have mentioned this thing that I didn't mention. And so I can either splice in an extra segment right then and there, or I've had situations where I record an entire lesson and it was just a mess from beginning to end. So I just scrapped the entire lesson and then went back and redid it from recording to editing. I have to do that probably on like I would say maybe 5 or 6 videos typically on my courses. So that's a time sink as well. Hello, Chris. Good morning to you. I'll try to give you a hand with networking with content creators if you want it. Yeah, absolutely. I would very much appreciate that for sure. Wife's job, if I may ask, she is a, I don't know, should I dox? I'm getting closer and closer to doxing myself every day. Well, let's just say it this way. She has several master's degrees and she almost has a PhD. So I'll say that much. We have to make sure this gets in the Moist Critical's hands or queso. Game looks like I would sink hours into. Keep going, dude. Thank you. I appreciate that. Even just editing a 4-hour drawing down to 50 minutes takes a while, so I can imagine 28 hours. You're right, yeah. I think the rule is like, and this is not the case when you're doing like a course video, but generally speaking, I think the rule is like 1 hour per minute of video. So it takes 1 hour to edit a minute of video is the general rule. Now with a course, like I'm not doing any editing. It's just like cut off the superfluous noise at the beginning, cut off the noise at the end. I apply some AI noise reduction so you can't hear my keyboard and my voice comes through really clear. And then I just edit out any ums or uhs that I happen to say, because people don't want to listen to that for, 20 hours or whatever. And then, yeah, it's very light editing, generally speaking. I'm not doing like any effects. I'm not putting titles on the screen. I don't have multiple different camera angles. It's just one thing. So it probably takes me like max 5 minutes per minute of course video to edit. But generally speaking, it's almost 1-to-1, because there could be entire minutes where I basically don't change anything and I'm just watching it through. So yeah, it varies quite significantly. I mean, it's hard to do, but let's go, Miss Firebelly, PhD. Yeah, she's very, very successful, very impressive woman. And she's mine, so I'll be back off. I'm kidding. Sounds fun, cool, yeah. All right. So what you're saying is I need to scope creep your Udemy courses and add explosions, yeah. Can you make a course on making courses? That would be interesting. That would be really interesting. Actually, a YouTube video on like how to make effective tutorials would be cool. Because I sometimes get videos recommended from smaller Godot creators on my recommended. And sometimes they're doing a tutorial or whatever, and it's just like, ooh. I mean, the tutorial has good information, but it's like the way it's presented is just not great. I'm married to a nurse. I'm good. There you go. But is she real? That's the question. I'll leave that for you to decide. Do a collab with Playable Workshop. Yeah, I'm down anytime you want to do a collab on anything. If you need tutorial content or whatever, I'm down. Totally down. Then of course I'm making courses about making courses. On making tutorials will be the example of what not to do. No, I think your stuff is great. I think all of your videos are generally very high quality, so everyone subscribe to Playable Workshop. After you subscribe to me, of course, but if you're in the chat, you're already subscribed to me, so it's all right. It's fine. Yeah, I love the tutorials. All right, I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and then when I come back, we will stop chatting and we will start working. I think the next thing to do is, I'm going to start working on some of this stuff where the player can break the tutorial sequencing. That is going to be an absolute nightmare to do. So I'll drag you all through that struggle with me. But also, yeah, give me 3 minutes. I'll be right back, and we'll continue on. All right, your favorite niche e-celeb is back. Nick, you got lots of fans in this chat. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. Well deserved. I'll be your fan. I have no idea about Playable Workshop, but I don't invest in studios. I invest in people. You good people. All studios are people, yeah. Did you use Delaunay triangulation for the map points and edges? I'm learning it now, and my god, it's confusing. I just hope it works like I want it to when I'm done. Yes, I did, and I did not implement the Delaunay triangulation algorithm myself. I pulled in a C# library that does that for me, but the thing that you should know if you're using Godot is that Godot has a built-in Delaunay triangulation here in the Geometry 2D class. So you can do triangulate Delaunay here, and you just pass in a packed vector to array of points, and it will triangulate for you. So that's built into Godot. You no need to implement the algorithm yourself, and I certainly wasn't going to do that. But I pulled in a C# library for that. I don't remember why I didn't use the Godot triangulation. I probably should just swap it over to using Godot's triangulation. I don't see a reason why I need to use the C# version, but I guess maybe it was just... Yeah, I don't know why I used that. I don't know. Anyway. Not for much longer, yeah. Thanks for the advice on font ligatures and Cascadia code font the other day. I have since switched to them in my editor. Really nice to use the font in the terminal as well. I do, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, you're welcome, Wooius, and welcome back to the stream. Always good to see you. I had no idea. You're welcome. Yeah. That's one of those algorithms where I'm like, okay, this is a solved problem. There's really no reason for me to know how this algorithm works. The only thing I need to know is like what output it produces, right? And I know that's not for everyone. I know there's a lot of people that like to get into the nitty-gritty of algorithms, but I'm not that person. I'm like, okay, this algorithm provides this output, great. The implementation could be a black box for all I care. I only care about what the output is. So maybe it's newer. I don't know. It might be. It might be. But I think it was available at the time when I implemented it in this game. So there you go. Another subscriber. Him and Jack are awesome. Yeah. My grammar is not. Okay. All right. Let's see what we can do here. So let's just go step by step and figure out all the ways that I can break this thing. And then we'll have to figure out how to actually avoid that breakage. Okay. Inquisition aware. Okay, so the first way that I can break things, well, I can't actually do any breakage here. So this is actually pretty well restricted. So I'm going to go here. Okay, so in here, the first thing that I can do to break this is I can sell all of my cards. So, I might need to introduce the concept of selling to the player as well. Shoot. Anyway, we gotta make it so the player can't sell anything. I may just cheat. I may cheat a little bit. Check this out. Watch this. Player inventory. We got the sell board. Let's do this. We're gonna do this. Public void. Lock sell board. Oh, shoot. This might not be as clever as I thought it was going to be. But anyway. Sell board dot board inventory component dot lock. What? Oh, why does it keep auto completing to board comment component? Board inventory component lock. Let's do this. Public void lock all cells. Lock cells union with valid grid cells. Emit signal grid change. There we go. So we'll do lock all cells. Now the problem is that this is going to be unlockable. This board unlock component here. Let's take a gander at that. Board unlock component. Is player bored? Oh, maybe this will be fine. Lock cell, hover entered. Is player bored? What the heck? What the heck is going on here? So this board unlock component exists on every board, but it only works for the player board. Well, I mean, we could just try this. So I go to my tutorial seated run here. Tutorial guide, rather. Let's do tutorial context dot drawer UI dot player inventory dot lock. I spelled this wrong. Oops. Wrong cell. Lock cell board with an S. Let's see if that works. If you want to have a bit of humor, then letting the user delete them and the skeleton taking the money and regenerating the cards might be fun. That could be an option for sure. Let's see if I can do this. Okay, the cell board is locked. So we're good. That is a nice stopgap solution for now. So the player can no longer sell all their cards. Very cool seeing your system almost effortlessly support this stuff. Means you've really built a solid foundation. Yeah, thank you. I think the way that I generally approach building systems for my games is I build them as if I'm building an external API for someone else to consume. And I think that's a very useful way of framing the systems that you build in your game, because then it forces you to think very modular. It forces you to isolate the logic to the places where they need to be isolated, but it also forces you to build a system in a way where there's minimal entanglements, where, you know, like the board unlock system is completely relegated to the board unlock system. Everywhere else in the game just naturally responds to changes in the board unlock system through generic signals and whatnot. And I can query the board state, I can toggle the locked status of cells, but all of that is handled by the board inventory component. So yeah, I think it's just very, that way of framing things is very useful. Just like when you're building systems for your game, imagine that you're building an API that's designed for somebody else to consume. And that includes, like, you know, tightening your accessibility, right? Even though it may just be you working on the code, you kind of want to deny yourself like full accessibility to everything in a class. You want to just only open up the methods and properties that need to be opened up. And yeah, that just, I don't know, it just helps quite a bit to think of it that way. You might need either disabled state for the cells or remove the whole UI temporarily to the tutorial. Never mind. I think this works as a stopgap. I think maybe in the future something more interactive, like, oops, you just sold a card, something like that, and then have the skeleton reappear. Let the skeleton get progressively more annoyed by the player trying to break the tutorial. That could work. I tend to work in a similar fashion, always write code like I'm going to hand it off. Yeah, I think that's the way to do it. I think that's the way to do it. Okay, so we've got those. So that's the first way that it can be broken. The second way that this can be broken is by just not putting any cards in the board and dying. The problem is my state machine doesn't really support this, because what I could do is I could say, oh, you died. What am I going to do here? Because I need cards to resurrect the player. I could have the skeleton or that skull give cards to the player and say, oops, let me do that for you. Actually, I think I know how I can do this. So what I'm thinking about doing is I can do this. I can have the I could have that skull say, "Oops, like you died." Here I will. Resurrecting requires that you sacrifice some cards. I'll put some cards in the board for you, and then you can click the goblet or the basin, whatever it is, to resurrect. That might be the way to do it. Because what I don't want to do, one solution is like, I've kind of designed the tutorial where if you just have one card in the board, you're pretty much guaranteed to win because the enemies have very low amount of health. So as long as I have a card on the board, it's impossible to die. But if the player doesn't have a card on the board, you can die. What I could do is I could say, "Oops, you don't have any cards on the board, you can't start the combat." But I don't want to teach the player that that's how it works. I mean, I could just make that a feature of the game. I could just say you can't start the combat without any cards on the board. I'm trying to think if there would ever be a reason why I'd want to support entering combat with no cards on the board. I wonder if that's the better way to do it. Just prevent the player from starting combat with no cards on the board. That's a decision that would affect the entire game, though, and not just the tutorial. It's an evil skull, so it should probably mock you. The tutorial will not cover the resurrection mechanic. I wasn't planning on it. I wasn't planning on it. Maybe I should, though. Because the problem with introducing it in tutorials is that I have to like force the player down a path where they die. Which I could do. Shit. Decisions. Is there a benefit to death? If so, a player would die on purpose. If not, I don't see the incentive. So I assume you die if you play an empty board. Right. Yeah, there's no benefit to dying. At least not right now. I mean, I could see a situation where I introduce an artifact where you get some kind of benefit if you die. Like, oh, every time you die, you get X card, right? In that case, it could become a strategically viable option to say, well, I'm just going to allow myself to die, and then I will sacrifice, one of the cards that I don't want, transmute that basically into the card that comes from the artifact, and then go on. That would be a little bit awkward, I suppose, but I could just see that being a possibility. Wouldn't be hard to make a boss one-shot you, add some throwaway cards in the inventory to sacrifice, then make the boss fight fair again. Yeah, I could do that. Can make the chicken kill you. What would the spiffing Brit do? Good question. All right, how do I want to... Maybe I'll just write a note. Maybe we'll just move on because I don't know exactly what to do about that. So sequence issues, prevent or handle player death in some way. So we'll just skip that for now, and we'll see if we can address any of the other things that the player can do to break this. So one problem is that, so if I do this, can I sequence break anything here? I don't think so. So this is all nice and good, buttoned up. So here I can break the sequence by immediately going back to the next combat. So what I could do potentially is I could just dim the screen and force the player to grab this alchemy, to open up this alchemy here. Maybe that's what I'll do. Okay, so let's take a look at how I can do that. Let's see, drawer UI. Dimmer rect. Where is this set? Show overlay, hide overlay. Go overlay. This drawer logic is a little bit convoluted. Maybe I'll just do something very, 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 very basic. Let me take a look at my drawer. Dimmer rect is here. What I could do... Oh, that's not going to work. I was going to say I could just duplicate that dimmer rect, but the problem is it's going to be double dimmed. Doug Dimmer Dome, Doug Dimmer Rect, owner of the Dimmer Rect control node. I don't know. Anyway. So if I just duplicated this, that would double up the dimming. So I guess the other thing to do is I could add like a lock system to this where I just add a lock counter to the dimmer rect and then remove from that lock counter. That is going to be a little bit tricksy though. Get to raise yourself from the dead and get a necromancer card. Yeah. What if the player only places one skeleton on the board and starts the battle? Could that break it? No. If there's at least one card, it won't break. But if there is no card, then it will break. Are there any keyboard shortcuts you need to take into account for the tutorial? The entire game, first of all, welcome back to the stream, Grandra. The entire game is going to be playable with a mouse only. So the tutorial is just going to focus on the mouse controls, but there are ways to open the inventory and there will be a way to open the alchemy with a hotkey, but I will leave that up to the player to discover. I don't think I need to call that out specifically because that's just like a quality of life, nice to have thing. It's not essential for the game. And maybe I'll call it out at some point in the future, but eventually there will be like a key bindings menu where players can go and investigate and find out, oh, there's an open inventory hotkey, you know what I mean? Or shortcut or whatever. That's a lot of varies, yeah. All right, I think I need to change this drawer UI now. So let's do private void. Do I want to make this private? Let's see. Let's make it public. Public. Add overlay lock. Remove overlay lock. Okay, now let's create... Actually, I'm going to actually make this a little bit more explicit. Add dimmer lock. Remove dimmer lock. Okay. We're going to go up here. Private int. I'm not using this current alchemy tier anywhere. Why is this still here? Get out of my code. dimmer lock count. So we're gonna do if not hide overlay. I have a feeling this is gonna break some things, but add dimmer lock, remove dimmer lock. I have a feeling this is gonna break some things. Remove dimmer lock. Oh boy. Okay, dimmer lock count plus plus is overlay visible is equal to dimmer lock count is greater than 0. Dimmer rect dot visible is equal to is overlay visible. If dimmer lock count is equal to 1, then we do the dim in. Dimmer lock count, we'll just force, well, ideally there should be a one-to-one relationship here, so every time I call add, I should be calling remove somewhere else in the flow. Dimmer lock count is equal to 0, but I think it's probably going to break. Okay. All right, let's just let's see what that does. So actually in my tutorial guide here, what I'll do, so we're going to state begin alchemy. We're going to do tutorial context.drawer UI dot add dimmer lock. I'd make like F12 inventory. Would you want to disable the hotkeys when you're hiding those buttons though? Yes, that's a good call out. Yes. Disable inventory hotkeys when buttons are disabled. Oh man, there's so much to do. Oh, tutorials suck. Why does no one just know how to play my game? This is BS. Okay, so there's no dimmer here. So that's good. The one sequence that I'm really concerned about is if I do this. Okay, let's see. And the dimmer lock did not work. Add dimmer lock count. Is that just not working? Put a breakpoint there, I suppose. F12 is too far right. I should be where the left hand is. Yeah, right now inventory is tab. So if you press tab, it opens up. And alchemy is probably going to be somewhere around there as well. What about all those evil left-handed people? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm tempted to say if you use your mouse in your left hand, that's a you problem, man. I'm kidding. I think the default keybinds will be on the left hand of the keyboard. And then, of course, I will also surface options to change the key bindings to whatever your personal preference is. So really, the debate is just about what are the sensible defaults. But if the defaults can be changed, then that's all right. What about me? That would be me. Oh, no. Oh, no, they're here. It's funny. I have a friend who's left-handed, and he tried to use his mouse in the left hand for a while, but then there was just so many problems with it that he just switched to using his right hand for the mouse. Because finding left-handed mice that you want is hard, and then... Why is that not working? It's not even hitting this. Why is that not working? I don't understand. My sister's left-handed. Honestly, I have no idea what hand she uses for a mouse. Okay. I said it earlier in the stream, but yeah, this tutorial system is not that fun to build, to be honest. But it must be done. Uh-oh, my dimmer lock count is -1 now. So yeah, the lock is not going to work because I have a bunch of weird logic. Okay, let's move away then. Let's not do the... Let's do something a little bit simpler. I don't think the lock is going to work. So I'm going to just undo this. So it was -1, that's why it wasn't working. We're just going to undo those changes, and I'll do something different. All right, so let's do this. Public void force overlay visible. Public void unforce overlay visible. Private bool is overlay forced visible. Is overlay forced visible equals true. We'll do show overlay. And then is overlay forced visible equals false. I'm going to do this. Private void update overlay. Maybe I don't need to do that. I'm just going to do this. Show overlay. Is overlay visible? Maybe I should do... update overlay. Okay, dimmerrect.visible is equal to is overlay visible or is overlay forced visible. If is overlay forced visible, then we're going to dim in. Else if not is overlay visible, dimmer material dim out. So show overlay, hide overlay, these are just going to become update overlay now. And then what I'll do, this can become a little bit set force overlay visible. Bool is visible. Is overlay forced visible equals true. Update overlay, and then update overlay. Okay, so now we go to the tutorial guide and we do set force overlay visible true, and then leave state begin alchemy. We will do set force overlay false. All right, let's see if that works. Most of us use it on the right side. Okay, so we go here, we go ba ba ba, we go bam, we go bing, we go zoop. Alchemy is used to combine cards and create new ability combinations. Okay, so with the overlay visible, I can't click anything. So I open the alchemy drawer. If I close the alchemy drawer in the inventory, it should remain forced up. So now I can do this. And now I can't close this because I'm not allowed to close the drawer when there's alchemy outputs available. So I have to take an alchemy output there, and then I can close the inventory, and it's still forced. I think this is, I mean, this is kind of wrong anyway. Oh, oops. It's because I had an ID10T moment. ID10T moment. This is really making me look forward to putting a tutorial in my game. Yeah. There are a few things that are just absolute slogs in my experience in game development. 1, adding a tutorial to the game. 2, adding controller to support to a game. Those things are absolute nightmares, and I wish upon a star that those things were not necessary. I haven't done localization yet, but I'm sure localization is also there. Because like, if you imagine this game is a pixel font. So what happens if I want to localize it to Chinese? Where I'm going to find a pixel font that has all the Chinese characters? Probably not going to happen. Certainly not going to happen in the same style as this font. So then I got to figure out a way to render all the Chinese characters in a way that makes sense, in a way that's localized properly. And also swap out the font, probably not to a pixel font, probably to a higher resolution font, which probably means I need to force the game into like just a higher resolution mode to begin with. So it's like, yeah, I don't know. It's much simpler to just learn English at that point. Anyway, you've defeated some of the Inquisition's forces. Claim your treasure and press forward. Keep. Alchemy is used to combine cards. So I probably want this to actually backtrack a little bit. Like if I close this, I want it to go back to the alchemy drawer, but that's all right. So put these in here. Choose one card to add to your inventory. Hover over a card to see its new abilities. We got the legendary output. Now continue your offensive. Okay, that seems to be working. All right. So another way I can sequence break this is I could just do this. And trigger that boss fight just by not going along with the tutorial. And now it's broken, right? So we're gonna have to address that next, but we'll just do this for now. Can you get a software engineering job now if you want? I believe so. I mean, I don't want to be too hubristic. I don't want to just, you know, the job market is a little bit different now, but I do have multiple connections. I do have multiple former colleagues who would all put in a good word for me at whatever companies they're working at. So I think it would be, let's just put it this way. I think it would be easier for me to get a software engineering job than somebody who's just like sending a blind application. I will keep the statement modest and I'll just say that. I always love the moment of realization that my project is big now. Yeah, that's a good point, Scorpion Dev. That's a good point. I don't know English, sorry. Also need to implement a gacha system for the China market. Are you planning on controller support in this game? Your idea is to make it primarily work with only mouse, so it'd be difficult to do right. Yeah, controller support is probably something I need to support because this game would be really good on the Steam Deck, I think. So that is definitely something I'm going to need to look at. How that's going to work, I have no idea. I made it work for Gunforged, and Gunforged is a relatively complex game as well, so yeah, we'll see. I can help you find the font for Chinese, though. Chat more in Discord. Yeah, if you want to link it. Chalicote has an interesting take on localization. I think he uses libraries, but it's been a while since I heard him talk about it, so I could be wrong. Hi, can't stay for long, just want to say hi. Well, welcome, Evan. Good to see you as always. Be cool if that tutorial helper dude continues to be a thing after the tutorial. Maybe he can taunt you throughout your run. Yeah, make him smart too. He knows how bad your board is. Like the Joker from Balatro. Would you consider working with someone on a game for design and code, or are you strictly solo? For now, I'm solo. And I'm not really considering working on a game with anyone else. Now, that could change. Like, let's just say Alka Mortis is wildly successful, then maybe I would hire somebody or work with somebody. But yeah, for now, it's simpler to just stay solo. There's fewer things to coordinate. There's no one to have design disagreements with. There's no one to have art disagreements with. It's just easier, more straightforward. And the thing is too, like if you're not hiring somebody, my experience is that it's hard to get people to voluntarily together work on a game for any substantial amount of time. Like you have to find somebody that's actually equally dedicated to the project as you. And that can be very, very hard to do. So yeah, it's just simpler in a lot of ways to just work solo. I'm in a similar situation, creating turn-based strategy played primarily with mouse. Can't wrap my head around idea of controller support, but that's a problem for future me. That's my philosophy as well. Future Firebelly is going to be very angry, but we have not yet experienced future Firebelly. Because for my last project, I started with internationalization and controller support settings. Nice. Yeah, I mean, if you know from the start that your game is going to have localization and controller support, that kind of thing, then I think it can be a good idea to build in the systems for that and build that with that in mind. I knew I was going to have controller support for this game from the start. I'm not sure on localization, but I don't know. We'll see. Except chat, which is us also. We are dedicated, bro. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Okay, so I need to prevent the player from being able to visit those nodes. Again, it's the problem of like, I don't want to teach the player that they can't visit already visited nodes. I may just need to do additional like tutorial callouts. So what I could do is like if I visit here, I could have the skull guy say, oh, you can visit cleared nodes, but it does incur a notoriety penalty. But the problem is that might be introduced before the system of notoriety has been introduced. One simple thing to do is just to make it so that a cleared node in the tutorial is always zero. Is always zero notoriety. That would make it so that I can't like trigger the boss fight before it's supposed to be triggered. But the problem is the player may learn that, oh, I can visit these nodes for free, and then when they get into the game, there's actually a cost to that. So, okay. So I definitely don't want to prevent the player from visiting a cleared node because I don't want to teach the player that they can't do that. So that's definitely out. Modifying the cost is kind of the same problem. I don't want to teach the player that it's free to visit a cleared node. But that is a preferable solution to just outright preventing it from happening. I guess the sophisticated solution would be to detect that the player has visited a cleared node and have the skeleton, this guide, call out that fact and like maybe just revert the notoriety number for you. But that's going to require a lot more of a sophisticated approach to the tutorial sequencing here. The problem with no localization is that if you have your Steam page set to English only, a big part of Steam player base simply doesn't know your game even exists. Right. What's the main purpose of being able to backtrack onto a cleared node? The main purpose is that you may want to grab a node that you really want. Let's say it's an enchant node or whatever, but then all of the nodes along that path are not something that you want. So what you could do is you could backtrack a little bit and then go down a different path of the map. So yeah, that's what you could do. Actually, now that I'm thinking about it, this is a broader gameplay discussion, but I wonder if the game would actually be more interesting if I prevented backtracking. I would have to generate the map in a way that doesn't create any loops so that you can't, like, trap yourself. But that could be interesting. I could see that actually causing a lot of problems because I don't know if there's a way to guarantee that the player won't loop themselves into a situation where they can't progress. Yeah, never mind. I don't think that's going to work. Never mind. I think you should let it happen. I mean, it should be possible to lose a tutorial. Okay, Lurk man, gotta go. Lurk, maybe later live. Who can say, dude? Thanks for joining, Neozoid. Always good to have you here. Always good to see you. Clamp it to 99 and call it out, but don't actually cause the fight. I could do that. The problem is that I actually have an explicit situation here where the boss fight can be triggered early. So I have this branching path here. The player will go up to this combat here, then they'll grab an enchant. And what I want the player to be able to do is they can go to the checkpoint immediately after if they want to, or I want the player to have like, or some players to have a moment of like, wait, what happens if I go back here and then back there, right? And so what would happen in that case is that they backtrack here, they go up to this upgrade, they upgrade a card, and then the boss fight triggers on this node rather than on the checkpoint. So this is like a little area where the player, a curious player, can figure out how the traversal mechanics work a little bit more. So if I capped it at 99, then the boss fight would not trigger here. So that's another consideration. That's why I asked, wanted to spark that thought. Yeah. It's an interesting thought, but I don't think it'll work. Shouldn't finding a loop in a directed graph be pretty simple? Why wouldn't it work? The problem is like the entire graph is a loop, basically. Like there's a huge amount of loops, depending on how you, I guess, define a loop. But yeah, there are obvious loops like, you know, 3 nodes grouped together where there's only one entrance to the loop, and then, you know, imagine these were connected here and then these were not connected upward. So that would be a loop, right? But when you're looking at a whole map with a bunch of edges, there are all kinds of like interior loops and whatnot, right? There are all kinds of ways to create a loop that would prevent the player from moving forward. In my opinion, making all the team members have the same view of the project is the hardest thing to consider when hiring a team. Well, that's why hiring is a little bit more preferable, because like, if the person's not being hired in an explicit design position and they're just being hired more or less to do the gameplay programming or to create the art, then it's less of an issue. But if you're working with somebody who's supposed to have like an equal amount of creative control, I think that's where the problems come up. What does he is coming to? A player can backtrack there, but the boss closer to them via a timed trigger. How can we translate that? Well, that's translated by the fact that there's a notoriety cost to backtracking. So it's not free to backtrack by default. There is an artifact that makes it free to backtrack, but backtracking is costs notoriety or incurs a notoriety penalty by default. Okay, well, let's just go on and keep fixing the obvious issues. These are questions that are a little bit harder. So prevent backtracking from triggering boss fight before appropriate. Too soon to teach that, like you mentioned. Yeah, that's the problem. Because I could say, oh, you backtracked, that incurred a notoriety penalty. And it's like, wait, what's a notoriety penalty? I mean, there's a way to do it. It's just that would require the whole logic to handle that situation, which could be easy. I mean, I can instantiate multiple instances of this tutorial and just have them on different like state flows, and that could work. I'd still need to coordinate like hiding one instance and showing the other instance, but that would probably be the simplest way to do it if I needed to have like a branching path for the tutorial. Is instead of trying to bake that into the one state machine, I could just instantiate a new scene and have that follow a different state machine. Could you just give them the cloak artifact by default in the tutorial, then the backtracking wouldn't cost notoriety? That is something I thought about as well, and the problem is that they won't know that they have the artifact. And so it's the same problem as just setting the cost to 0. Is they may not realize that they have an artifact, because I'm not teaching them about artifacts in this tutorial. And so they may not realize that they have that artifact and may not realize that that is not the default behavior. Can you close the path back to that first node? I could. Then break that artifact for some reason. Yeah, I'll have to figure this out later, but let's go forward and see where else this can be broken. You very easily teach them and have the skull give it to them right before they need it. Yeah, I mean, but that's an introduction of a branching path in the tutorial flow, which is something that I haven't decided if I want to do yet. Like, do I want to have spots in the tutorial that are only triggered by specific player actions? That would solve a lot of problems, but then I need to, the code becomes a little bit more complicated. Oh, I lost there. Very interesting. Okay, well, there's a simple solution to that. There's a very simple solution to that. Tutorial, seed and run. We'll just give this both. Maybe we'll turn this down to like 12 health and we'll turn this down to 16. Let's turn the boss health down to like 40. Maybe even force them to backtrack, but yeah, I get that. Yeah. It's like, it's more so a question of like, maybe I'll just go through this sequencing, determine all of the issues, and then maybe there will be a way of just kind of like taking an approach that can solve all of those issues at once. It may be the case that I just need to make the tutorial code more complicated, but I don't want to just go off and like start working on that and then find out like, oh, that's not really working. This tutorial is going to be very tight though. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. Just got to fix all these issues, that's all. So could I break something here? What happens if I do another alchemy? Okay. Yeah, so I could break this. If I did 2 alchemies, I could unlock that cell before we get to that step, and then I won't have enough residue to do it again. I think that can be easily solved, though. I think if I... Let's see. Maybe I'll just give the player 1 card. Okay, let's do this. Project settings. Enable tutorial add. Okay. Enable tutorial. Enable tutorial. Public static bool is tutorial enabled. OS is debug build as bool. Okay. If not game debug dot is tutorial enabled. And then in here, get rid of that. Okay. All right, so now I should only have 1 skeleton. So I go here. That is an automatic win, so we got that. Okay, so now I grab Skeleton Mage. It's going to force me to do Alchemy, so I do Alchemy. I only get 1 card out, so I'll put this back on my board, and I get 1 alchemical residue. So then I go here. Okay, and then this should win. Okay. Then I grab the ceremonial dagger, for instance. Alchemical residue is a byproduct of alchemy. Use alchemy to gain residue and unlock a cell. All right, the problem here, though. I do this. Now I still only have 1 card on my board. I don't like that solution. I don't like that solution. Okay, well, maybe there's a different way to do this. Ah, shoot. Okay. I could just skip that tutorial step if they happen to unlock a cell before that step. That might be okay. If you control the notoriety cost for each node, you could fudge the numbers so that the boss would spawn if they do backtrack and visit the other node. Yeah, that's already in place. The problem is that they can just backtrack back and forth an indefinite number of times. So controlling the cost doesn't really help in that situation. I know I see a lot of videos like this where it happens where you beat insert name of enemy designed to be undefeatable. It's usually a bad time when the game doesn't at least handle the exception. Oh, right. Yeah, yeah. Is the amount of residue gained persistent for a card throughout the playthrough, or is there a way to make it give more? Right now it's persistent. It's every card that you don't choose from the alchemy is turned into alchemical residue. So if I do this, choose a card to add to your inventory, heal 4, boom. Now continue your offensive against the Inquisition with your newly alchemized card. So what I could do here is I could do alchemy again. Actually, I could prevent them from having enough blood to do that, I suppose. So the first combat gives what? The first combat gives... Maybe I just set the blood to 0. Maybe that would be the fix, because it costs blood to do alchemy, so let's go to the run manager. Game debug.is tutorial enabled 0. Else starting blood. Depends on how popular a game is, but someone will probably try to break your design to lose tutorial. Yeah. Love the ornate UI panels. Thank you, Breck Heck. Thank you, thank you. Imagine there's a few of us in here now. Here I come. Welcome back, Neozoid. The flying skull can give you 2 residue as part of the tutorial. I could do that, but the problem is, yeah, I want the player to get the residue through the proper mechanic. I don't want to just give it to them. But this should work. So if I grab this and I grab that, I should be able to alchemize. So if I try to alchemize all these, not enough blood. So I remove one of the cards and then I can alchemize that. So now I've got 1 blood left. This is not going to let me do any more alchemy now. So that's good. So that can actually teach the player too. So maybe it's good that I reduce the blood that you start with. Then I do this. That gives me 7 blood, so now I'm at 8. I can grab the wyvern here. And then I can also do this. So unlocked using alchemical residue. Use alchemy to gain residue and unlock a cell. So I do this, and I do that. Okay. Get the wyvern here. That gives me residue. I can unlock this. Okay. Okay, I think that's a good fix for that. So we'll just start the player with 0 blood in the tutorial, and that way they can't do more than 1 alchemy. And if they try, they will notice that there's a blood cost to it. Okay, so that's a good fix, I think. I'm happy with that. All right, so fix more tutorial sequence stuff. That's a very technical term, stuff. So the next thing I need to do is I need to force that dimming again when I enter the second alchemy state. State unlock cells. So here, tutorial context.drawer.UI.set force overlay visible true. Okay. Maybe that'll work. It's time for game dev once again. Yes, indeed. Welcome, Jackie Diatona. Good to see you. You know, I think about it, your skull is evil. He doesn't mind just randomly putting cost in your notoriety later. He can be like, you know what? You backtrack too much. It's going to cost you now. That could work. Late. No, that's okay. Welcome, Snupbill. Always good to see you. With the message, yummers. We look forward to that every morning, don't we, folks? Mm-hmm. Yes, we do. Okay, so I put this on the board. You have defeated some of the Inquisition's forces, claim your treasure, and press forward. Boom. Alchemy is used to combine cards. So we alchemize. I can't do anything. Like if I close this, probably didn't need to change that position, but I'll handle that in a second. Go here. Choose 1 card to add to your inventory. Boom. Now continue your offensive against the Inquisition with your newly alchemized card. Okay. So I go here. Oh, but I could do alchemy here and I would screw that up. So it's the same problem. I didn't actually fix the issue. Anyway. Okay. So there's still a problem there. Prior to being prompted to do so. So we need to fix that. Oops. Put that in the wrong section. Grab this. Put that there. Okay. All right. Let's see if there's any sequencing issues here. So if I go here. So if I backtrack here, that sets me up at 95, and then I visit this one, and that's 5 there. So then I can do this. Converts all fire applied to heal. All right, let's do it. So maybe I'll just out heal this guy. There we go. All right, so we're getting there. We're getting there. Here I go, BB. All right, so I'm going to take another quick 3-minute break. And when I come back, we will try to figure out what to do about these sequence issues. I think I've actually solved most of them. I mean, aside from these 4, I guess. We got to figure out what to do about backtracking. We got to figure out what to do about player death. Maybe we can handle player death. Maybe it would be a good idea just to handle that situation. Even if I do my best to prevent it, I'm sure a player will still figure out a way to do it. So maybe that's the next thing we should work on. For this one, I'm thinking I might just skip. I could skip that tutorial step if it detects that the player has already unlocked a cell. So that could just be a step that doesn't need to happen. So yeah, we can do that for sure. And then I also want to do hide guide when boss combat starts. Okay. The tutorial is getting there. We're getting there, but I'm going to take a quick 3-minute break, and then when I come back, we'll go for another 45 minutes or to an hour or something. Something like that. We'll see. Anyway, I'll be right back, and we will continue on.
feel fine. Discovery Houston, press to ATO.
Liftoff of mission 41D, the first flight in the orbit of Discovery, and the shuttle has cleared the tower.
Three, two, one, zero, zero. Liftoff.
Discovery, go and throttle up. Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
All right, I'm back. All right. Well, should we figure out how to handle player death? Maybe we'll just figure that out. Let's see what happens. Let me think about this for a second. So what I might be able to do is I might be able to do state machine dot add state resurrection, leave state resurrection. And what I'm gonna do is we'll handle the death. Is that inside of game events here? Where is that actually handled? Maybe in my run manager? Not rum manager, run manager. Player resurrected. State player died. This is changed to when if is player board dead. Okay. Player resurrected event handler. Signal public delegate void player died event handler. Change to the state player died. We'll do emit signal player died. No. Emit signal player died here. Okay, and then we can go in here. Run manager, connect. Run manager signal name player died. Callable to from on player died. Let's do this. Private. Let's see. Private simple state machine dot state previous state. Okay. We'll handle that on player died down here. Previous state is equal to state machine dot get current state. State machine change state. State resurrection, I guess. Private void state resurrection. Look at all these yummers. Look at all these yummers. State resurrection guide container dot visible is equal to true. Regain health. I will supply you is requisitioned a word? It is, right? Requisitioned. Activate the basin to resurrect. Okay. Skull position, that's fine. We'll just set him there. Now what I need to do in here is I need to get the resurrection board. How am I going to do that? What I was thinking of doing is just doing the, putting those spiderlings on the resurrection board for the player. And then disabling the resurrection board. So we got the resurrection container here. Here's that board. How do I get a reference to that board? That is a good question. How do I do that? I could do something a little bit interesting here. I could, for example, go to my board manager, and I have a signal in here, board registered event handler. So if I go to my tutorial guide, what I can do is I can connect to that signal. So I can do this.get board manager.connect, board manager.signal name .board registered, callable.from board on board registered. So we'll scroll down here. Private void on board registered. We'll say board. Okay. If board.owner is resurrection container, let's just do is not resurrection container. Then we're gonna return. Okay, and then in here, what we're gonna do is we're gonna say board.add board this.get board manager .add board placement lock board for var I equals 0, I is less than 6 I++. Spiderling is equal to card factory create card. Card registry from ID, card ID, Spiderling, true. Resurrection container. Nope, we're just going to do board. Board.board inventory component try place card at next available position, Spiderling. And then Spiderling.card node.play drop animation. From origin delay up position. From origin. Var card position is equal to get card do I not have a way of getting that? How do I do this? Play drop animation. Where is this done? Oh, I don't even need to do this. Play drop animation, spiderling.card node dot center position. I think that's all I need to do. We're going to want to add some delay in there, but so we're going to add all the spiderlings. We're adding a board placement lock, which just is for the player to not be able to do that. So we're going to add all the spiderlings. Okay, then when the resurrection is finished, that's when we need to figure this out. So run manager resurrected. So we're going to listen to that resurrected signal. Okay. Run manager dot connect player resurrected on player resurrected. We'll go down here. Private void on player resurrected. And what we're going to do here is we will do state machine.change state into the previous state, and then we'll set the previous state equal to null. We'll do that first, I guess. Okay. Let us see if that works. So the way I've designed it is that if there's an active tutorial step in progress, then what should happen is it should return to that state. I'm gonna have to change all this animation stuff as well, but let's see if that works. So what we're basically doing is we're going to give the player cards with which they can resurrect for them, so they don't have to spend the cards that they get in the tutorial. So the Inquisition is aware of your dark presence, now move to confront them, place cards on the board. Okay, now if I remove the cards and I do this and I die, I did die. You've been defeated, fear not. You may resurrect by sacrificing cards to regain health. I have requisitioned spiderlings for this purpose. Activate the basin to resurrect. So it didn't return to the previous state. Why didn't that work? It should be state in combat. State in combat. On combat rewards. Oh, did I not? Hold on a second. On player resurrected. I want to see if this works too. So let's do await get tree dot create timer 2f false to signal scene tree timer signal name dot timeout. Okay. I wonder why that didn't work. It should have gone back to the in combat state. Oops, I should have died right there. Cool, that works. End run. That should just take the player back to the menu. So that will just work, I think. Obviously, there's a lot of animation sequencing stuff that needs to be done. So we do this. And it's not returning to that state for some reason. So I guess we'll put... Oh, because I'm dumb. Never mind. Pay no attention. Is this the true meaning of tutorial hell? Yeah, I guess you could. Yeah, you were right, Elshron. I wasn't thinking. I had a brain fart. Okay. So now we're back, and I could just basically do this as many times as necessary. We'll add some kind of delay there for sure. I mean, I could even just do that. I can do that here. Var tween is equal to create tween. Tween.tween interval I times 0.1. Tween.tween action. Put those in there. And that should work. Does it take 6 spiderlings to resurrect? No, you can sacrifice any cards. I'm just giving the player spiderlings here as a demonstration. We'll tighten this up a little bit. Okay, now we're back. And we should be back into our state here. Okay, so that should handle all the cases where the player can die. Even at the boss fight. And you lock the resurrection board so the player can't take the spiderlings off? Yeah, correct. I will double check that, but yes, that is the way that it works. Why does that slow down? Oh, I can't. Maybe I need to add. I have a placement lock, so I can't place cards on the board. Do I need to add a drag lock? Add. Oh, I think I need to add the lock on the card. This.get card mouse events manager dot add drag locks for board. There we go. Okay. Actually, I think this is wrong. This needs to be dot set delay. I times 0.05. I guess I could have done an interval here, but that'll work too. Tutorial becomes easy with thousands of spiderlings who keep dying and being given free ones. Right. No, it was definitely intentional to not, or intended not to allow the player to place or remove cards from the board. I just forgot to actually lock the board from being dragged. Why is that still slowing down? I don't understand that. Maybe I'll just try this. It feels like the drop animation is slowing down over time. I don't know why that's happening. Okay, that looks correct to me. Okay. Oh, I forgot to test if I could remove the spiderlings. I still can remove the spiderlings. Why is that not working? Oh, 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 this is adding a drag lock for each card, right? So let's not do that. The lock goes on the card, not on the board. So add drag locks there. All right, we'll get it right eventually. We will get it right eventually. Okay, so now I can't drag cards off of this board. Okay, we're good. We are good now. All right. This interval is a little bit too long. I'll turn this down. I mean, this is all part of the animation pass that I'm going to need to do on this tutorial. There's a bunch of positioning issues. There's a bunch of timing issues. But the most important part is that the logic is working. Okay. And then we can just continue on. All right, good. So that solves that problem. That's done. Okay. Cool. I think that's a good stopping point for the stream for today. So we did go a little bit longer. Not quite 3 hours, but close. But anyway, that's it for the stream. We got a lot done on the tutorial, so I'm happy about that. Again, if you're interested, you can wishlist Alchemortis on Steam. I'd appreciate that very much. You can also check out the description for all the ways that you can support me. There, I've got my Udemy courses, I've got the Patreon, the Discord server is linked below, so if you're not in the Discord server and you'd like to be, definitely join that. And yeah, that's it. I may or may not do a bonus stream this afternoon, so keep an eye out for that. Otherwise, I will be back at 10 a.m. Eastern tomorrow, so I hope to see you all there. Thanks again, everyone, for your support. Thanks for joining. Very much appreciate it. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.